whether you're dealing with engineering or technology, when you talk about writing and reading, when you're talking about the refinement of speech, when you talk about grammar or the dialectic, or if you're talking about concepts of astronomy or music.
The people from the Nile Valley were the very first people to develop a concept of time. Time is a concept that sprang from the minds of African people. They were the first people to divide the day into 24 hours. They were the first people to develop the calendar, 365 and a quarter days. They were the first people to build with stone. They were the first people to develop systems of education, the first universities. They invented writing. They invented paper. They developed libraries. They were the first physicians, the first psychologists, the first dentists, the first brain surgeons. They were the first governors, the first rulers, the first men and women to orient structures to celestial bodies in order to harness the spiritual energy that's generated within a structure that is properly aligned to celestial spheres. So in other words, they were human beings who knew how to manifest the power of God on earth.
You're quite hostile. I got a right to be hostile, man. My people been persecuted.
Nonviolent in the face of the violence that we've been experiencing for the past 400 years is actually doing our people a disservice. In fact, it's a crime. It's a crime.
Here come the drums. All right. Yeah. All right. Here come the drums. All right. Yeah. All right. Bass in your face, not an 8-track, getting it good to the woods. So the people give you some of that reacting to the facts that I kick in a stick, in a stay around, point to the joint, put the Buddha down. Don't get to the roots, and giving it up, so turn it loose. Then again, I got a story that's harder than the hardcore course of the Holocaust. I'm talking about the what's still going on. I know where from that dumb bitty dumb for the base of the land. The place for the drum, it made it by the whack to the whack. It fooled the black, it left us faded.
Quench eternal flames of hell, hellfire. Welcome everyone to the Melanated Roots Radio Show. Your host for the show is Brother Tommy and Brother Rio. And our topic for today is recourse and remedies under the Uniform Commercial Code. Basically, what we will be discussing is exit strategies so one can properly position themselves where they are not being taken advantage of by the corporate government, de facto government that is taking control of our ancient land. How you doing this evening, Brother Rio?
Greetings. I'm doing pretty good, brother. How you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling real good. I think we got a really good topic lined up for discussion. A lot of information that we're going to bring forward that people need to know. We have a lot of misconceptions about our status in this country. We have a lot of misconceptions about what is the United States, what is the United States of America, what is USA, and I think we're going to bring some clearance to a lot of this information that'll help people kind of create some exit strategies for themselves moving forward. Let me say one thing, Brother Rio. Brother Dave just had a very powerful show, and also he had some powerful participation with the audience. And one thing that Brother Dave kept speaking about is preparation and being prepared. And I think this show goes along with that. It's a different way of preparing. It's a different way of putting yourself in position to where you are not being taken advantage of the corporate government, and you can put yourself into a position of strength and power.
I would like to echo those sentiments. I missed the show, but I do understand that what we're going to be talking about today is going to be very vital to help one get into a position to where they can prepare or more properly prepare with the necessities that they are going to need, whether it be greater access to resources or just more financial expenditures. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you, brother. What we're going to bring today is going to fall in line with Brother Dave always talks about with being prepared. And, you know, we just want to help the family understand all their options. We have to put out the disclaimer. I don't propose to speak for Brother Tommy, but I know that he is in agreement with me that, you know, we are not lawyers, nor do we give out legal advice.
Correct.
Now, this is not entertainment, but if you are seeking legal advice, you need to seek out the proper authorities that have a monopoly on giving legal advice, and later on as well. But you know, we don't give out legal advice.
And let me piggyback on what you just said. When you use the word monopoly, that's what the bar is. The Bar Association is a monopoly that controls so-called attorneys and puts them in a position to where they can monopolize the legal or the field of law, so that you can have people above you that have the ability to control and run the lives of those below them. So that's exactly what the bar is, a bar association. It is a monopoly on controlling the people through law.
I would even claim that it's not law. It's just statutes and codes. Mm-hmm. It can be termed as private law, but it's not, as we have come to understand, common law.
Absolutely.
Which is protection for every man, woman, and child, which is another thing we're going to have to go over today, Brother Tom. Mm-hmm. The difference between a democracy and a republic, mm-hmm. and the way the Constitution is truly supposed to work.
Okay, that sounds really good.
We got a powerful show.
Yeah, yes, sir. Do you want to get right into it? You have something else that you want to bring to the table in terms of popular things going on, or are you ready to go ahead and eat?
Tommy, I do, in fact, have something else I would like to bring to the attention of the family. I don't know if you or the family were aware, but there's an article. This comes from The Root, and it's titled "Predominantly Black Austin Neighborhoods Hit with 2 Package Bombs." Did you hear anything about that, brother?
No, that's the first I'm hearing about it. Go ahead and bring it, bro.
Okay. 2 separate package bombs detonated in the Austin area on Monday, killing a teenage boy and wounding an elderly woman, according to the Associated Press. Those attacks are likely related to a package bombing that fatally wounded a 39-year-old man just 12 miles away earlier this month. Although the May 2nd explosion was at the time not considered to be an act of terrorism and possibly the result of a bomb built by the victim himself, all three incidents were briefly being investigated as possible hate crimes. Three of the Texas residents wounded by package bombs have been black. The 75-year-old woman critically injured this afternoon is Latinx, according to Houston's KTRK. After the sole victim of the March 2nd bombing, 39-year-old Anthony House, died in the hospital. Austin police ruled his death suspicious, but did not investigate it as a homicide, telling Fox 7 that anytime we have a bomb go off like that and somebody dies, the first thing people think is terrorism. While we cannot completely rule it out at this point, we do not believe that terrorism is a motive in this death. The same story from the Fox affiliate, along with other reports at the time, mentioned that House had faced previous unspecified charges with the county. Local authorities assured the public they did not believe someone was going around leaving packages meant to explode, but advised residents to call police if your gut is telling you something is wrong. But while the bulk of that early investigation seemed to hinge on identifying the origin of the explosion and confirming the package had not been delivered by postal carriers, in the hours after today's bombings, Austin police quickly drew a possible connection to the other blast. As they told ABC, all three explosions were caused by packages left overnight in front of the victims' homes, which were not sent through federal or private mail services. Likely in response to widespread panic over the crimes and speculation about the motive stemming from the fact that both of today's bombs detonated in predominantly black neighborhoods, authorities also backpedaled on their earlier statements about a potential hate crime connection. Austin Police Chief Brian Manley told the AP there was no evidence supporting the notion that the bombings were hate crimes, but said police haven't settled on a motive and therefore can't rule anything out. Hate crimes in Texas have been steadily increased the election of Donald Trump. The investigation is ongoing as hundreds of thousands of media, talking heads, and tech influencers descend on Austin's downtown by Southwest Festival. The governor has offered up to $15,000 reward for information connected to the explosions, as a reward for information related to the death of Border Patrol Agent Rogelio Martinez, which was later ruled an accidental death. The governor's office offered $20,000. What are your thoughts on that, Brother Tommy?
Wow. Honestly, I don't know what to think. So are they saying that black communities are now being targeted with hate crimes, and this is an example of that? And did I also hear you say that hate crimes targeted towards black communities have increased since Trump has been in the office?
In Texas.
Okay, wow.
In Texas.
Okay, in Texas.
The article says in Texas. Yes, but this is the third bombing of the black community in Texas, Austin, Texas, to be specific. So, I don't know. They seem a little slow on the investigation to me.
Wow, where'd you get that article from? The Root, you said?
The Root, yeah. You can find this on The Root. Predominantly black Austin neighborhoods hit with 2 package bombs. And so close together, and 3 within this year alone. I mean, it looks like a pattern to me. Yeah.
Well, interesting. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking it looks like a pattern. That's pretty much all I can say about it at this point. I was wondering if anybody in the Texas area had more information about it.
Well, Brother Thomas just raised his hand. Maybe he has some more information about it. How you doing this evening, Brother Thomas?
Oh, peace to you, brothers. Peace, Brother Rio, Brother Thomas.
Yes, sir.
Greetings.
Yeah, I don't have information about that. I just have a singular incident that happened in New York that I thought was interesting. So when I saw someone posted that on BTR today, I just added that in there. But I do have a request. I mean, I'll wait to the end of the show, or maybe, you know, we could talk after the show. But I never really paid attention to that little clip y'all played at the beginning. So I had a request for you brothers, or Brother Tommy, really.
Yeah.
But in here in New York, it was a black male who put a mail bomb into a mailbox, and it blew up a lady, and she died. And it appeared that this black male, he had been harassed and illegally arrested by a cop in 2014 or 2015, and it caused him to go to jail for a couple of years. If he got out of jail, he put the bomb in the cop's mailbox, but the landlord opened his mailbox and it blew up on her. And but what surprised me was when it happened, they had no clue. I mean, this was like done so covert, and how they was just able to track this man to his front. It leads me to think that they got cameras, and they could just rewind the tape anytime they want, because this dude did it so slick. I mean, there was no way you could have found this dude unless you had cameras. And I'll mute my line.
Yes, sir. And I'm agreeing with you on that, Brother Thomas. I read an article that said that there's 62 million plus cameras throughout the so-called United States, and a person on average, depending on where they live, is caught on camera a minimum of 9 times throughout the day, coming and going in and out grocery stores, coming from grocery stores. So 62 million cameras are on the move. So that's probably exactly what happened, that they did, have a camera on him and was able to rewind it. So, okay, I feel you on that one. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and roll into the topic. Brother Rio, you cool with that, or is there anything you want to talk before we get rolling?
That's good with me, brother. I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the family.
Okay. And that was good information. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is that, we know that contracts are enforceable in this country, Brother Rio, and they know that contracts are enforceable. And once they get you under a contract, and if you don't rebut that contract stands as true because you have not rebutted. Am I right on that, Brother Rio?
100%.
Right.
The contracts stand higher than the Constitution itself.
Absolutely. So a lot of us are under adhesion contracts that we have not rebutted. So the presumption is that the contracts are true. So one thing I think we have to recognize is we got to get a clear understanding of what is the United States. So we have this federal corporate government that is now ruling and controlling. And we have to understand that common law, the law of equity, those things have been removed. And what is governing the day in this country is the Uniform Commercial Code, also known as the UCC. And when we are in a particular status, such as U.S. citizen, taxpayer, resident, those codes apply to us. And when I talk about the contract, one thing that a lot of people don't know, that a contract is not valid unless there are remedies and recourses within the contract. So that's why we are going to speak to the remedies and the recourses that do exist underneath the Uniform Commercial Code, because they had to place them there for them to be able to allow their scheme to continue to move forward. How you feeling on that, Rio?
I believe that's a very good synopsis, brother. I'd like to read into the record, possibly some information that might help the family understand how we got into this situation. Okay,
let me say one thing. I also want to say to the people, just one thing before you start reading, Brother Rio. I want the family to understand what is the United States. And the term the United States, when used in the geographical sense, only includes the District of Columbia, which is a 10 square mile of the District Columbia, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, American Samoa, Guam, and places that they so-called purchase at a later date. It does not apply to the 50 so-called continental states. And there is protection or remedies moving from that U.S. citizenship over into so-called state citizenship, and we can deal with that word citizenship later. But go ahead, Rio.
All right. I'm going to start with the Emancipation Proclamation. which everyone knows was given by Lincoln. But with this Emancipation Proclamation of January 1st, 1863, Lincoln did free the blacks, the slaves, by freeing them from the condition of slavery. It did nevertheless leave them in a condition of servitude, because even though he passed the Emancipation Proclamation, we do know that slavery was still in practice, as well as black codes and Jim Crow laws and things of different nature were also starting to spring up, so that our ancestors truly weren't allowed to be free and express their freedom. At the close of the Civil War, the black man was the property of the United States government. So we know that the slaves pretty much went from being the property of the plantation owners to the government that was now coming into power, which is what you're referring to as the United States Corporation.
Absolutely.
And she was rightless. A black/slave of the time was told that if they wanted to leave this country, they could do so at any time, as they were then here voluntarily. However, for as long as they chose to stay in the United States, they were in a condition of voluntary servitude.
Yes, sir. Brother Rio, let me kick in real fast. And Brother Bragg sent me some information where people have to understand Abraham Lincoln was considering the removal of all blacks out of the country. So this Honest Abe was considering concepts and ideas to send all the blacks out of the country around this time. Go ahead, brother.
One can only guess as to how many had boat fare or even know where they might go. As a group, black slaves were not educated or taught much beyond the requirements of the work they were to perform. The writer of this article doubts that they knew much, if anything, about the world outside of where they lived and worked. It was, as it is now, to the benefit of the masters and rulers. For slaves, times have not changed, and we'll pretty much see that as we continue on with today's show. Lincoln was reelected in 1864. The South's General, Robert E. Lee, surrendered on April 9th, 1865. And on April 14th, 1865, Lincoln was shot by John Wilkes Booth at the Ford Theater and shortly died after.
Brother Rio.
That's when Vice President Andrew Johnson succeeded to the presidency upon Lincoln's death. And soon after, he proclaimed an amnesty to all Confederates, except for certain leaders, if they would ratify a 13th Amendment abolishing slavery. Not happy with things like freed slaves, several Southern states added anti-Negro provisions to the proposed 13th Amendment, which didn't attach. During the Johnson administration, the 13th Amendment was added to the Constitution in December of 1865.
Brother Rio, can I interject real fast?
Yes, sir.
What I would like to do first is go back a couple years with a real quick snippet. I think we have to understand before what you're saying occurred. If you go back to the year 1861, solely in his capacity as Commander-in-Chief of the United States military, Mr. Lincoln called the Congress into session under the authority of martial law. Because remember, there were southern states that walked out and they didn't get a proper quorum to make some of these amendments law. So what he did was he called Congress into session under the authority of martial law in the year of April of 1861. So ever since April of 1861, this country has been under martial law, and Congress has not met in a lawful due process since then. Go ahead, brother.
I think that's a very good point, brother. And a term that is popularly used when the Congress has to disband, they call it sine die, which was kind of like a code word, but it's also when the takeover took place, because Congress was not allowed to set a date for when they could reconvene.
Okay.
And the southern states withdrew from the Union. So at that point, Congress was no more.
Mm-hmm.
So when martial law was enacted and President Lincoln pretty much called for the Congress to come back into session, we didn't have, like you said, a quorum. All the states weren't there. So we truly didn't have a Congress.
And the country was under martial law from that point moving forward. And then if we look a little bit later, Brother Rio, you're going to get the Trading with Enemies Act, and you're going to get the bankruptcy. You're going to get all kind of other things that perpetuate this concept of martial law. But we have to understand this Constitution, these so-called protections that we're supposed to have underneath the Constitution has been suspended since 1861. Go ahead, brother.
Yes, sir. And that is the evidence of the takeover. And of course, we know the result of that was the forming of the corporation.
Mm-hmm.
So also during the Johnson administration, this is when the 14th Amendment was proposed and supposedly ratified in 1868. Though I use the word supposedly as there is some debate as to whether or not the 14th Amendment was actually ratified. But that is not the purpose of this debate at this time. So they don't go into that, but the family should look into that. As one can see, the issue of slavery is one that has caused a lot of problems and turmoil over time. The 14th Amendment was written to secure to those under the incapacity of race, newly freed from their condition of slavery, a class of citizenship unknown in the constitutional contract of 1787.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, all the writers of the Constitution were deemed, quote unquote, white, wealthy landholding men, and some were also slaveholders. The first clause of the 14th Amendment defines the term citizen as all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside.
And Brother Rio,
so that's dual citizenship.
Absolutely, and that has to be really understood. And to the family, listen, they're letting you know that you can be a United States citizen and you can be a state citizen in the state in which you reside. And we're going to build upon that later in the show because that is very, very important in terms of an exit strategy away from this U.S. citizen or citizen within the corporate government, Brother Rio.
In 1872, the Supreme Court slaughterhouse cases determined that the 14th Amendment established or created a separate and distinct class of citizenship for those under the capacity of race, thus securing to the new class of citizen subject the same privileges and immunities of the native-born individual who was born in one of the several sovereign states of the Union.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you have just heard is corporations being given the same rights and immunities as natural born people.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
So now you have organizations or corporations that have the ability to own property.
Absolutely. And at this time, Brother Rio, what we have to also point out is that you are also hearing the word privileges when it says that these citizens are now subject to the same privileges. Remember, an indigenous person with inalienable rights, which we are to this land, don't have privileges. We have rights, natural born rights. Once you start dealing with privileges, you are now dealing with economic slavery.
Yes, sir. Let me wrap this up real quick because it goes right into that.
Yes,
your
sir.
Point.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. That was a good interjection. Mm-hmm. This same type of privileged citizenship, the same type, has been since offered to persons of all races. So not only was the 14th Amendment able to give some type of citizenship to the so-called slaves and blacks, but the real intention was to give it to corporations.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's being offered to all persons of all races and circumstances. The contractual terms of this citizenship require the individual to forfeit native-born rights, which is what Brother Tommy just illustrated, in exchange for securities, privileges, protections, and liabilities granted by the United States government.
Yes, sir.
And remember, it says United States government, so they're talking about the District of Columbia.
Mm-hmm. And
those surrounding territories.
And let's make it clear. The District of Columbia, the 10 by 10 square miles, not the continental U.S. We have to be clear on that. So this jurisdiction or acting as if they have jurisdiction over you, we got to deal with that. We're only talking about the 10 by 10 square miles and these outlying areas. Go ahead, Brother Rio.
That is correct. So now any individual person such as you can be subject to the jurisdiction of the corporate United States, either by volunteering, and these are some ways that you can volunteer, filing an IRS form, W-4 or 1040, or by accepting benefits and privileges granted by said corporate United States, such as Social Security, welfare, subsidies, and the subsidies could be unemployment or anything of that nature.
Right.
So since so many people appear to have opted into the corporate United States, it is now presumed that you specifically have also done so.
Yes, sir.
In law, this is what is called a presumption.
Rebuttable.
Well, it's their presumption, but if you don't rebut it, their presumption is what they're going to impose and enforce upon you.
Yes, sir.
Which means that unless you say otherwise, which would be the rebuttal, it stands as truth. Remember, subjects don't have rights. They have privileges and benefits.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And back to what we keep saying, there are presumptions, and like he said, it states that you are also saying, hey, I ain't rebutted anything, so therefore I am a U.S. citizen. I am a slave. You do have certain rights and certain levels of control over me because you are offering me benefits and privileges, and I am accepting them without saying, hey, without reserving any of your rights. And so that's one thing that we're going to talk about is how to reserve your rights within the Uniform Commercial Code so that these presumptions don't apply to you. Go ahead, Brother Rio.
Brother Tommy, I'd like to illustrate at this point that, the reason we have to talk about the Uniform Commercial Codes at all was because of the information that you alluded to earlier, in 1861, when the Congress went out of session, and then we came under martial law when Lincoln recalled the Congress. Mm-hmm. The Constitution at that point was pretty much a done deal.
Done.
And was legislation from the 13th and the 14th onto the black codes and different things that came down in 1933 and Jekyll Island, all of these other things. They're setting up the corporation to pretty much dominate and subject the people. So before 1861, the people were above government. Mm-hmm. After 1861, they started passing and implementing things and strategies that would put the people under the government. And because the government was not going to rule or not going to be restricted by the Constitution, they had to come up with other codes, statutes, in order to govern the people with.
Absolutely.
That is the UCC of what we're talking about.
Absolutely. What we're dealing with is colorable law. It is
yes,
not.
Sir.
It is not law at all, and there are no courts within this country that are administering common law or equity. We are dealing with commercial, contractual courts. That is the only thing that we're dealing with is the Uniform Commercial Code. And the point here is that until you stake your claim, you are no better than anyone else who hasn't. And as far as they are concerned, you are just like everyone else. So one thing that I just want the family to know, that I'm going to quote a couple case law, Brother Rio, if you give me just a little space here, to let people really truly understand according to case law. This ain't what me and Brother Rio are saying, that there are two distinct governments that are in ruling and two separate governments in ruling, and you can move over from one to another. Now, we agree as melanated indigenous people of this country, we have the ability to take it a step further, because a lot of times you start hearing about these white folks talking about sovereignty and the founding fathers of this nation. Yeah, but that applies to them, and they don't have the ability to take it a step further and reestablish themselves as melanated indigenous people like we have the ability to do. So I want the family to understand that when we are talking about sovereignty and being in a certain status, we are taking it beyond what these Europeans are stating, because our claim is different. Our claim is far and above them, and we have to clearly understand that. So what I was going to say, Brother Rio, here's the case law right here. It says, it is quite clear then that there is a citizenship of the United States and a citizen of a state, which are distinct from each other and which depend upon different characteristics or circumstances in the individual. And that was the slaughterhouse cases in 1873. Then we have another one that says, we have in our political system a government of the United States and a government of each of the several states. Each one of these governments is distinct from the others, and each has citizens of its own. That was the United States versus Cruikshank in the year 1875. And I'm going to read one more to you. There's a difference between privileges and immunities belonging to the citizen of the United States as such, and those belonging to the citizens of each state as such. And that was Rushstrat versus the People in the year 1900. So there is a difference in citizenship, and there's many different classifications as citizenship. And one, if they're preparing or if they're looking to get the oppression off their bottom, they need to start considering their citizenship status.
Very profound, Brother Tommy. Very profound. I think at this particular time we have to interject the difference between a democracy and a republic. Mm-hmm. Because this is the time period where we're seeing the difference. 1861, we had a Republican form of government. Mm-hmm. Now we have a Democratic form of government, and that's what you hear all of these fake Americans running around preaching to the world. You know, everybody's got a right to democracy, but what is democracy? Is there a difference between democracy and a republic, Brother Tommy?
Yes, sir.
I have a Black's Law dictionary here, and I am going to look up democracy.
Yes, sir. Because while you looking up the word democracy, Brother Real, this is what I would also like to interject. Because originally, all native-born people of this country were known as nationals. But with now let's just go with that. We'll deal with the higher level in terms of our ancient nations a little later. But with the advent of the 14th Amendment, the federal United States gave these people the opportunity to become government citizens. The federal United States government conferred titles of nobility on these new citizens by granting certain benefits, privileges, and securities to any person who accepts this new citizenship. And before you bring out your definition of democracy, Brother Rio, we have to understand that titles of what are titles of nobility and why they were forbidden when the land was taken, before the land was taken over, because titles of nobility were strictly forbidden by the first Constitution for the USA, as the founding fathers understood the dangers in allowing the legal fraternity, in terms of lawyers, that legal fraternity, to gain a foothold in the government. Titles of nobility bestow special privileges to a select class of people, and that select class of people are U.S. citizens, persons, employee, driver, resident, attorney, esquire, your honor. We have to get away from these titles of nobilities because they are using these to give privileges to a select class of people. And we don't want privileges. Go ahead, Brother Rio.
And also, Brother Tommy, they often refer to Lincoln as being the last president of the Republic. Mm-hmm. But Lincoln himself was an attorney, which means he had a title. He was an esquire. Right. So in actuality, Lincoln was the first president of the, not the full-fledged corporation, but I guess the takeover. Yes. The demise of the Republican form of government. Absolutely. So right here in the Black's Laws Dictionary has democracy, that form of government in which the sovereign power resides in and is exercised by the whole body of free citizens directly or indirectly through a system of representation as distinguished from a monarchy, aristocracy, or an oligarchy. So what I get from that definition, brother, is it is the same thing pretty much as a monarchy, aristocracy, or an oligarchy, mm-hmm. because of the way our representation is set up. Absolutely. The people are under the belief that they elect representatives, and representatives are obligated to vote the way their constituents would have them vote. Mm-hmm. But we know that is not the case. There's a lot of literature out there where they themselves say, the people, they don't know what's good for them. So they take it upon themselves to do what they feel is in the best interest of the people. Mm-hmm. And of course, we know that that system has been corrupted. So we have officials being paid off by corporations, and we have a system where we have representatives passing laws that oblige the people that they presume are subject to them and the laws that they're passing, and they aren't held accountable to those laws themselves. Mm-hmm. I don't know what kind of foolishness that is, but I think we need to retake a look at what it is we are really being a part of. Mm-hmm. So that is a democracy, and then republic. I just added. Let me say what. Can I interject here, Brother Rio? Yes, sir. So I think we have to also understand, to admit to citizenship, one subjects oneself to the federal jurisdiction. If you don't submit to this title, citizenship, and you rebut these presumed contracts, then you're not subject to the federal jurisdiction. Because it says right here, although the 14th Amendment is often referred to as the amendment that freed the slaves, it instead enslaved the free, because the Constitution did not allow for a citizenship comprised of people outside of the white race. And a lot of people mm-hmm. really don't want to deal with that. If you're a black person or a so-called labeled black person in this country, you ain't got no business hollering the Constitution or my Constitution, my constitutional rights. You don't have these rights. They don't apply to you. When the people who wrote the Constitution were these colonizers, Europeans, who were not speaking about people who were so-called black. So none of those protections apply to you in the first place. So we need to move beyond trying to have protection underneath the Constitution, because it was never written for us to be, to protect us in the first place. So in reality, the purpose of this amendment, the 14th Amendment, was to destroy the free native-born people by creating corporations, like Brother Rio said, and by giving these corporate artificial entities the right to own property. And me and Brother Rio had a show before, especially when we were talking about the Civil War, when we were expressing to the people that one of the major reasons for the Civil War outside of slavery was foreign power structures could not own land in this country prior to the Civil War. So with the bringing on of the Civil War, these and creating this corporate government and bringing people up underneath its jurisdiction, now these corporate entities that they are creating can now own the land
in this country.
Yes, sir. Brother Tommy, I found the definition, and I want you to kind of take notes and pay special attention to the wordings that they use.
Yes, sir.
So a republic, a commonwealth, that form of government in which the administration of affairs is open to all the citizens. In another sense, it signifies the state, independently of its form of government.
Mm-hmm.
Republican government, a government in the republican form, a government of the people, a government by representatives chosen by the people.
Mm-hmm.
So they're preaching to the crowd and to the people what we know is a republican government, but they're hollering a democracy, which is working against the people.
Mm-hmm.
This is an analogy I like to use. I saw a cartoon, a political cartoon, and it was, I believe it was a fox, might have been a badger, and it was a squirrel. And the squirrel was commenting on how much he really liked democracy and how it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. So the wolf and the raccoon kind of looked at each other, and they decided to take a vote. And it's like, okay, we hungry. Who gonna get ate? So they both, took a vote, and they decided to eat the squirrel. Since the squirrel got outvoted, he wasn't too keen on democracy anymore, because that's pretty much what democracy is. It's just a mob rule. Mm-hmm. And whatever the majority of the people decide on, that's the way it's going to be. Whereas under a Republican form of government, that squirrel would have had certain immunities and rights that would have prevented any such outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So in a nutshell, that can distinguish democracy from a Republican form of government. The Constitution was put in place not to solidify our rights, but it was to restrict the powers of government so that they would not infringe upon the rights that we have. Mm-hmm. So it's like you said, it's not really written for us. It's for us to enforce. We are the beneficiaries of the contract. Mm-hmm. We enforce it so that our rights do not get stepped upon, and we are the only people who can enforce it. So us looking to government to solve our problems is ass backwards. That's not the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to tell them how they're supposed to solve the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But we're doing things, the wrong way around, and we're suffering because of it.
Well, Brother Real, and that's because we don't know our status and we don't know the importance of status. And they do know the importance of status, and the status of the people is really important to the federal United States, because if they have you in a certain status, both the state and federal court system today has certain levels of control over you. And these courts want to construe each and every one of us as a federal 14th Amendment citizen in order to obtain jurisdiction over us. They do not have jurisdiction over you. When they summons you to come in court, writing you a ticket, levying taxes on you, they're only able to do this because the majority of people are not aware of their status. And because they're within a U.S. citizenship status, the status of taxpayer, residents, and all these different things, they got you. And let me say this to you, Brother Real, and let me read this. It says the main function of these government courts is to keep people on their straight and narrow path and collect revenue in order to pay the national debt. They feel that the only way that this debt can be paid is through the taxing of the federal citizenry. So when Brother Rio, when gold and silver was taken from the hands of the American people by executive order in 1933, which we all are aware of, with complete disregard of the laws and the limitations of the U.S. Constitution, it became necessary for the corporate United States to create a new system of law. And they threw out common law. They threw out equity law, and they switched to admiralty maritime law, which is negotiable law. now called statutory jurisdiction. So right now, today, the courts we have are not courts of law. You are not going in there and getting no justice within the law. Like my homeboy Earl would say, you don't go to court. You go to court to lie. You go to church to tell the truth, because you ain't getting no justice in these courts. We have to understand that these courts are there for commercial contracts, and each and every one of us are being sold on the NASDAQ as commodities, and we are being governed under the Uniform Commercial Code.
Well, your boy Tom Cruise told you in A Few Good Men, the truth doesn't matter. It only matters what I can prove. Absolutely. And let me take it a little step further, Brother Rio. And let me kick this to the family. The Constitution, if you go to Article 1, Section 10, it gives us the unlimited right to contract. Well, those white folks at the time, but those rights applied to us prior to the Constitution being written. We had unlimited right to contract as long as we did not infringe on the life, liberty, or property of someone else. One thing I keep saying, and Brother Rio emphasizes it well, and I'm sure the family knows this, especially with the type of family that we have that's listening. Contracts are enforceable, and these Europeans know that. So it is felt by some that there exists some basic contract with you. They're telling you, we got a contract with you. They are enforcing tickets, levies, fines, because they are saying we have a contract with you, Negro, and they feel that they can act upon you because you have done nothing to rebut that contract. Absolutely nothing. And some say that this contract starts with your Social Security card, which is the SS5 form, your bank signature card. Remember, when you are conducting banking in this country, you are interacting with the king. These banks, they call them branches for a reason. You have branches on the body that hang off the body of a tree. Brother Dave has said it many times. These branches are nothing but one and the same thing, colored under different disguises. So when you are when you are having that bank signature card, that's a contract that they're putting you under. Like Brother Rio said earlier, when you file a 1040, they getting you there. When you file a W-4 form, they getting you there. So our problem today is that most of us are unaware that the courts and our government are operating on presumptuous contract, and an assumption is made that you and I have accepted government granted benefits and privileges that make us liable to the federal government of the United States. Once this assumption is made and we fail to dispute and deny said assumptions, we cause a presumption of a contract. They got a contract hanging over your head, period. You feel me, Brother Rio? Yes, sir. It's well said, brother. Well said. You bringing it.
Yes, sir. So we know that common law is based upon substance. Brother Bragg used to say it all the time. We're dealing with ecclesiastical law. We're dealing with trust, joint stock trust. So we're dealing with, it used to be the common law, which was the substance of the law. Now we're dealing with the Uniform Commercial Code, and that Uniform Commercial Code is based upon bankruptcy. Go ahead, Brother Rio.
I think that was very well said, brother. And, now that we've kind of introduced, I don't see any hands up, so I don't believe we have any questions or anybody who wants to make a comment. So we'll just keep rolling with this thing.
Let me interject one more thing, Brother Rio, when we're dealing with Uniform Commercial Code and how it's based upon bankruptcy. Because the Uniform Commercial Code is colorable law. It is not law, but it gives the appearance of law.
It's legalities.
Yeah, it's legalities. The Uniform Commercial Code is based upon negotiable instruments, a medium of exchange, i.e. paper money, checks, credit, and etc. It is not based upon real substance like gold or silver. That's what we have to understand. And
you have to understand, we've already said that I think that is one of the root causes of the presumption. In 1933, they took out the gold and the silver from circulation. So the people were given Federal Reserve notes, and it was deemed acceptable as legal tender for the settlement of all debts. But our obligations are owned by the United States. So all we really do is pass around debt. We never satisfy anything. We don't have any substance. So we are in a perpetual state of indebtedness, using instruments that were created by a private entity, the IMF, who sits on their enforcers or their collectors, the IRS, to get the tax, which is the national debt that we are responsible for, because the United States government passed it on to the people
through their bankruptcy.
So through the bankruptcy, but we are being held as the collateral. We are being held in debt. We are the ones that are being held in dishonor. So our position is subjugated unless we rebut this is not our debt. We have nothing to do with this. I'm not a subject to the federal government. I am of the people, and I have God-given rights, and I'm going to reserve those rights.
Absolutely.
So as we go into the UCC, we're going to figure out, once you understand that, how to be able to stand on your square and start to rebut these contracts, and with confidence speak to them with knowledge that you're not playing me like that. I'm not under your jurisdiction. These are the rules that say otherwise. Now, if you choose to railroad me and try to victimize me, either I or my prodigy or my descendants, the people that come after me, always have some form of restitution.
Absolutely.
Or recourse.
Absolutely.
Or remedy, as you were saying before.
Absolutely. Because the purpose of this show is what we're going to move into now that we're coming to the second hour. Brother Rio, we're going to have to go to a quick station identification break, and then we're going to come back with some remedies and how we can know and understand how to preserve or reserve our rights under the UCC, because the Uniform Commercial Code 1-207, 1-103, 3-305.2, and 3-601. These sections, and possibly others, is where we will find our remedy under the commercial code. So, Brother Rio, before we go to a quick, we got Brother Mel on the line, and he's got a question before we go to the break. Hey, how you doing this evening, Brother Mel?
Peace, family.
Yes, sir. Peace, brother.
I just had a quick question. When it comes to state nationalhood, to be a state national, is it the state that you were born, or is it the state that you actually physically live?
Brother Mel, it is the state in which you were born, because you have a birth certificate and a certificate of live birth in that particular state, which proves that you are a natural born citizen of that state.
Okay. Yeah, I figured that's what it is. That's what Brother Bragg told me. So
now, other states. Now, as you move to another state is going to recognize and is going to, is going to honor that other state's citizenship. So they're going to treat you as a citizen as well. But yeah, it's still tied to your state of birth.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. Great show. Y'all keep putting that work in.
Yes, sir, Brother
Peace.
Mel.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Thank
sir,
you,
Brother Mel. And Brother Rio, we're going to go to a quick break, and then we're going to come back and start dealing with these remedies, so our people understand you do have remedies. We are not a lost cause to where we can't move to the left or move to the right. We can't turn around. We can do all those things, and we can reclaim that which is ours. Brother Rio, on the way out the door, do you have anything to say before we go to our quick break?
No, sir. We're going to pick it up on the other side.
Yes, sir. We'll be right back after these quick station identification.
but you try to hide. Yeah, you turn down love like a trailer bag. Ow, you can't keep what you never had.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Melanated Radio Show. Okay, Brother Rio, you ready to get into some of the recourses that we have so that our people understand how that they can reserve their rights and they can quit being victims of this corporate scheme?
Yes, sir. I just want to put out a little caveat before we begin. Once again, we are not telling the people what to do, and we are not telling the people this is how and the only way to become free. We ask that you do your study, your research, and do your due diligence, because ultimately you are responsible for your own actions.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Point blank, always and forever. Now, our point in bringing this to the family is not to pretty much give the people a snapshot of what could be. Is just an understanding that the system is broke. And unless we learn how the system operates, we're not going to be able to fix our cog in the wheel. And we're not going to be able to reestablish our own system if we don't understand this one. Because there's no guarantee that the people we're dealing with are going to be honorable in the first place. They're oppressors, and they're going to continue to oppress as long as they can. So let's not get that twisted. Until we come together and we stand together on one accord, as long as he can divide and conquer us, he's going to do that, and he's going to take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
And if that means stepping on rights that we're supposed to have, he's been doing it. He's going to continue to do it. So just because we're bringing this to the family don't mean it's the end all to be all, but it does allow us the opportunity to be who we are supposed to be, which is we're supposed to be in honor, and we're supposed to conduct ourselves as our ancestors would have us conduct ourselves. And what we do and how we conduct ourselves is not supposed to always be contingent on people who want to be disagreeable and dishonorable. So we have to exhaust the things that we are supposed to do in a proper manner, and then we have restitution on the back end. And that's the only way we're going to get assistance from other people outside of the boundaries of, Turtle Island, or what we like to call North America or United States. We have to stand up and show the world that, number one, we're not in dishonor, we're not in violation, and we're no longer under the delusion that we don't know who we are and we don't know what we're supposed to stand for. And we're going to fight oppression here. And, if we take it on the road, we take it on the road, but we got to solve our problems here. How are we going to help somebody else if we can't help ourselves?
Absolutely.
How are we going to ask for help if we're not helping ourselves?
Absolutely.
So I think that this is a good step in showing, improving, and moving towards action being movement, putting energy towards rebuilding ourselves and putting ourselves in a position to where we're supposed to be. What's your thoughts on that, Brother Tommy?
Yo, I'm in agreement with you, Brother Rio, and I'm about to power forward with some remedies that we have underneath the UCC, and we're going to start with UCC section 1-207. If I were you, family, I would look up that UCC code and read it.
Side note, brother Tom, UCC section 1207 has been changed. It is now known as UCC section 1308.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
So
Great.
when you're making reference to it, you may still find it under 1207, but if you're going to use it in commerce and on contracts, you want to make sure that you write down UCC section 1308. It says exactly the same thing, but like I said, he's a trickster. So sometimes they move information around from time to time. So
absolutely,
just be advised.
Absolutely. So,
ahead,
so let's go ahead and deal with UCC section 1-207, like Brother Rio said, which is now UCC section 1-308. And it says, for the performance or acceptance under reservations of right, a party who with explicit reservation of rights performs or promises performance or assents to performance in a manner demanded or offered by the other party does not thereby prejudice the rights reserved. Such words as without prejudice, under protest, or the like are sufficient. What this means is that when you find yourself, because of incapacity, in a situation where it appears that you are accepting a benefit or privilege from government, when in fact you are not, it is necessary that you first explicitly state your reservation of your rights or protest. This is necessary in order that it is understood that you are not subjecting yourself to a specific performance or making yourself liable in any way, that you not knowingly, intentionally, and or voluntarily entered into an unrevealed contract with the federal government. Now, the bottom line is, family, that they have us all under adhesion contracts, and we not knowingly, involuntarily have taken or utilized these particular privileges that brings these adhesion contracts. So what I'm saying is, and what me and Brother Rio are trying to bring to you now, if you utilize the word without prejudice and then use UCC 1-308, if you use under protest, this now puts you in a position where you are reserving your rights. You are saying, hey, I didn't know nothing about this. You know what I'm saying? I had no idea that y'all put me in this situation, that I'm receiving this benefit, or that it's conferring this particular type of status onto me. I had no idea. So we are going to have to use without prejudice. Understand that UCC code. Don't take our word for it. Go read it and do the due diligence for yourself, because you do have a preservation of rights. So it says, one need not expressly sign a contract or swear an oath to be considered within a contractual nexus within the state. You don't accepting any benefit or privilege from any aspect of the state, subscribing to an adhesion contract, or forming an implied contract between the individual and the state, or even executing a unilateral contract of gifting rights or property to the state generates a contractual nexus. What that's saying, family, you go out there and get that driver's license, you don't got into a adhesion contracts, and you are wrapped up within the nexus of the state, and it is what it is, and it is considered to be true and enforceable until you do something about it. They have given you a privilege. Here you are, a natural born citizen of an indigenous to this country. And now they're issuing you a driver's license, and we are accepting it. That got us caught up in this nexus of contract. So one more thing, Brother Rio, before you kick in, it says, when adjudicated in state tribunals, any contract between you and the state, whether implied, adhesion, or unilateral, and all the terms, conditions, rights, duties, ramifications, and consequences thereof, is decided by the state for the benefit of the state and to the express detriment of yourself. Every contract that you find yourself in, banking, IRS, driver's license, is to the benefit of the state and to the detriment of yourself. Go ahead, Brother Rio.
Brother Tommy, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
Okay. My apologies, family. We had a power outage for a moment, so I had to call in real quick. But I heard most of what you was breaking down, Brother Tommy. One thing I wanted to add is that, without prejudice or under protest, it's also going to apply for benefits or things that can be perceived as benefits, but we really don't have a choice in the matter of using, such as Federal Reserve notes. That is the currency that is widely accepted and provided for us today. However, you can alleviate the acceptance. Again, we're talking about terms, acceptance of the benefit. So without, you can use that benefit without giving up your rights, because what other choice do you have? Some benefits you have to use in order just to survive or do the things that you do on a daily basis. So, when you're entering into contracts where you don't have an option, then you can reserve your rights by saying without prejudice or, of course, under protest.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Brother Rio. And we need to understand that the Constitution was written for the public employee. That's what a lot of people don't understand. The public employee, in order to limit its authority. So we have to understand that once we have reserved our rights through the Uniform Commercial Code, Section 1-207, now changed to 1-308, we can then start claiming our Fifth Amendment rights. And then if I were the family, I would do some research on the Fifth Amendment rights so they can understand what that is. And also, the Ninth Amendment was added as a constitutional wild card. In a card game, the wild card is whatever you claim it to be. So underneath the Ninth Amendment, you may claim whatever rights you want to, which is subject to the approval of a common jury. Brother Rio, we have a caller that has a question or a comment out of area code 423. Caller, what is your question and what is your comment?
Yo, this is Jenna.
What's
how
up, brother?
Y'all brothers doing?
How you doing, Brother Jenna?
What's up, Brother Jenna? Good to hear from you.
Thank you for taking my call. Man, I have a whole lot of ins and outs that I want to discuss with y'all brothers. Now, I don't know the codes by hand, but I do have the constitutional law and the Constitution available to my at my disposal within my library, of course. I mentioned on Tando, I had my 11 and my 6-year-old going through the dictionary, defining specific words, and these are some of the things that we discuss on a regular basis, and they actually dumbfound their teachers with the information that I give them from home.
Okay.
And it's interesting that Brother Mel would call in today, because I haven't spoken with Brother Mel on months. I haven't spoken with him, but I called him today specifically for that particular information about homeschooling. But we're not going to get into that. I want to get into what y'all are talking about. When we're dealing with this, it's interesting that you mentioned that the Constitution was made for constitutional employees, and you describe it different than I do. But when I think about how you said it, the people who signed the Constitution, all of those were constitutional employees. So I can submit to that particular aspect of it. But from my understanding, with all of the pictures and everybody that was engraved into it, I know that that Constitution was derived from the indigenous people's Constitution, if you would give me a second, the Iroquois, the Iroquois
Treaty of Peace. Yeah, great treaty. great treaty.
It actually wasn't even a treaty of peace because there was no need for one when the Iroquois made theirs. It was the Iroquois Confederation. Y'all correct me with my bag linguistics if I'm saying that incorrectly, but the Iroquois Confederation was already in place, which is what the Constitution has derived from. You know, they made theirs based off of the people who was already here, and that's where the Constitution comes from. But that's neither here nor there. But for all of the people that are listening, the Iroquois Confederation is that's the superior to the United States Constitution and things that what goes on here on melanated roots, what we be talking about on real life. That's where all of these rules come from. And if you understand that, then you understand where your rights come from. But when we're talking about the United States Constitution, none of that stuff was meant for us, even though we are weaved in between all of those. The United States Constitution was never meant for us. But that's neither here nor there. We'll get into that a little bit deeper as y'all dive a little bit deeper into that.
Yes, sir.
My question is that when we're talking about this, you mentioned that the things that we don't know about, and then when we do know about it, that goes back to the dictionary definitions that I'm teaching my preteen and my younger children. When we start understanding this, the decisions that we made prior to us understanding and what we agreed to when we didn't understand it, how does that work? And I think a lot of us have gotten to that point, and some of us, including myself, before I was up under the understanding, we signed things, we agreed to certain things. How does that work after we know what those particular contracts mean? How do we get out of that?
Stay with me. Stay with us, Brother Jerry. I want to get back and forth with you, brother. And first of all,
no worries. Yeah. No worries at all.
Yeah,
I'm gonna just mute myself.
No.
Don't. Ahead,
okay. Don't even mute yourself because I want to go back and forth with you real fast, or unless you got to go. That's why, Brother Jerry, we're talking about these UCC codes. This is where you have the ability to now, even though you unknowingly, unintentionally have pulled yourself into certain adhesion contracts, this here now is giving you the ability to reserve your rights and pull you out of it. Because even though you go to work and get paid a fiat currency and then you go out and spend that fiat currency, that is a privilege that you are participating in under this bankruptcy code that they're working. But you didn't know that. You unknowingly.
Hold on, Brother Rio.
Brother Tommy.
Excuse me, Brother Tommy. And I know you want to get at me about some prior situations, but we're gonna leave that in the backhand.
Yeah.
You just said something that was very interesting, and I want to make sure that everybody hears this. When we talking about things that we didn't know of, excuse me, because I don't know how to word this correctly.
Just come on with it, brother.
This weird accent or what have you.
Come on with it, brother. Come on with it.
How do we? Because when we don't know things, we agree to certain things. When we find out about it, we ask questions instead of demanding what our actual rights are. how do we work in between that instance? Now I understand what you're saying, and maybe some of the listeners do not. But once we, let's say, for instance, rooms to go. That's a big place where people buy buy furniture and what have you.
Right.
Say I go to Rooms to Go, and I buy this bedroom suit, this living room suit.
Do you buy it on credit?
But
Do you buy it on credit?
I don't. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I don't understand the contract though, right? I don't understand the contract. I have the money, but I don't understand the contract. But the contract seems, I would rather put my credit up more so than to spend my cash, right? So I go do that, but once I start to understand, I'm like, well, I would rather just spend my cash for all of that, and then they hit me with that where, you have these annuities. For those of you who don't know what that means, you have this interest attached, and you're like, no, I just want to just buy it flat out, since I understand the difference between the two now. I'd rather just spend my cash, even though it may not have been 2 days since I made the contract. But a lot of us will be like, well, you know what? I'm just going to let it go. I'm just going to let it be, and I just pay that such and such money per month to be able to do this because I already made that contract. They don't understand that they have the power within themselves to say, well, you know what? I ain't doing that no more.
I understand.
So
well, let me explain
how
one.
Can we?
Let me explain one thing, Brother Jerry. In that situation,
Yes.
say you go to Rooms to Go, like you said, and you buy a furniture set on credit. At that point, Brother Jerry, you are being a third-party fiduciary to a foreign corporation by investing in any product that is manufactured by a privileged corporation. You are participating in the scheme. And when you go buy an automobile on credit, you are now a third party fiduciary to that contract. So,
well, see, the reason I asked you that, is because is there certain situations to where it don't matter if you knew or you didn't know? No. You have the right, Brother Jerry, at all times to reserve your rights underneath the Uniform Commercial Code. Remember what I spoke to earlier. A contract is not valid unless there are remedies and recourse written into the contract. You are unknowingly signing yourself up to an adhesion contract that you are unaware of. So in that situation, you have the ability to expressly reserve your rights by writing under protest or without prejudice and utilizing the UCC 1-207 or 1-308. Now, like I said, I'm not an attorney or lawyer. You have to do the due diligence yourself. But that recourse is written into commercial uniform code. So real quick, before you even go into anything else. So when they tell us, like say the lawyers and the officers always tell us that if something happened, ignorance is, man, I just had a brain fart.
Right, ignorance is no excuse or something of that nature. No something for law. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
No excuse to ignorance is no excuse to not knowing the law.
Yeah,
I mean that's basically what it's saying. That's not the actual saying.
I agree with you, brother. I agree with you, Brother Jerry, but it's not true because first of all, you're not dealing with a law. You're dealing with a
that's my question.
right
there.
Right. You're not dealing with a law. You're dealing with a uniform commercial code.
That's not holding you to the law. Because you did not, it goes back to the point that where when you're sitting in front of the courtroom and they say, do you understand? Most people say yes, not knowing that they don't understand what the judge is saying or the magistrate. To be specific, the magistrate, what they're saying, they don't understand what they're saying, but they just say that just so that they don't look foolish in front of the crowd that's there when they're being asked that question.
Let me add this to you, Brother Jerry. I think your question you're asking is very important, Brother Jerry, and I appreciate you asking it. And let's say, for instance, you are in a situation where you're in a courtroom setting and they're trying to impose themselves upon you. And when you keep talking about what we're talking about is reserving your rights underneath the commercial code, that's where you find yourself in a situation where you should say something of this nature. I am not a citizen, resident, officer, or employee of the federal United States, nor any of its possessions, enclaves, forts, etc. I am not a 14th Amendment citizen. I am not a citizen of any corporate conglomerate, state government. I have not knowingly...
Brother Tommy.
Yes, sir.
Tommy.
Yes, sir.
Can you say that a little bit slower?
Okay.
Because I'm not calling nobody... Because stupid is a curse word in my house.
Okay.
You know, that's more dangerous than saying damn, hell, or fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
No, you're fine.
My apologies. But that's the equivalent of calling somebody stupid or dumb at my house.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not calling nobody else that's on the listenership.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not calling any of them that. But a lot of people are not willing to say that they don't understand. So could you please say that a little bit slower so that they can grasp what you are saying at this particular moment?
What I would say in that situation, and everybody has to do their own due diligence, I am a private national state citizen, a natural person, a preamble North American national domiciled on the land in whatever republic state you were born. Say to them, I am not a citizen, resident, officer, or employee of the federal United States, nor any of its possessions, enclaves, forts, etc. I am not a 14th Amendment citizen. I am not a citizen of any corporate conglomerate, state government. I have not knowingly, willingly, intentionally, or voluntarily made myself subject to the colorable law jurisdiction of the United States in the corporate monopoly of the federal and the state governments. For the purposes of Internal Revenue Code, I am a non-resident alien. Any contract that may be in place concerning me is so under color of law and false presumptions, must be under threat, duress, and coercion, and must be conducted ambiguously. I do not accept benefits thereof openly. If I have received a benefit, it was received ambiguously because of the fraud in the essence. I would not have accepted a benefit if I had known the ramifications of the presumed agreement. I do not accept said benefit openly and voluntarily. I am therefore not subject to or in the jurisdiction of the colorable law jurisdiction of the United States in the corporate monopoly of the federal and or state of whatever state you live in. If it appears that I have received any benefits from the government, they were received without prejudice under UCC 1-207, which is now UCC 1-308. If I give the appearance of being indebted to the government in any way, it is because I am left without action or recourse. There is no remedy available. So therefore, my liability is discharged without prejudice pursuant to UCC 1-308. 3-305 and 3-306. And here's the kicker, Brother Jerry. For the record, I am not willing to participate in the federal United States bankruptcy that is being administered against me and my fellow American citizens without my prior knowledge and consent. I am not willing to appear in an equity, maritime, or admiralty jurisdiction court without my accuser and or my creditor present, and or without the specific signed and authorized American or international contract present as evidence of my voluntary consent. That is what...
Hold on, before you say anything else. Yo, can you say that into a microphone, get that put out on the text, and put that in BTR community? I'm not saying that everybody would use that, but this is not necessarily a disclaimer, but it is something that people who know they agreed to something that they did not know that they was agreeing to something until they got that bill later on that they could use without a lawyer and be able to be fined after the fact.
Absolutely. I will definitely do
I
that.
will put myself on mute and wait for your rebuttal to what I had said. I know that's part of it, and I know you have a lot more to say for what I had gave you, but that what you just mentioned, that needs to be put out so that people could, even if they have a lawyer, to be able to say, this is what I didn't know, and this is what I know now, and this is what I would like to say. And most people are not going to be able to repeat that verbatim, and that's something that they need to be able to say word for word.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Brother Jenna. Hey, man, I great conversation, and I appreciate the questions. And it goes deeper. It goes deeper. We got another caller on the line, Brother Thomas out of New York City. How you doing, Brother Thomas? Go ahead and make your comment, sir.
Yeah, that was excellent statement you had right there, brother. I was glad that Brother Jenna said for you to put that in BTR, because I want to copy that myself, man. It was like it took you out of every part of that contract, man. It was beautiful. I kind of look at the 14th Amendment. Let's just say in 13th Amendment, you have the emancipation of the slaves, and now you have these people who are free, and they're not under the jurisdiction of the law. They had to put us under that jurisdiction. I mean, if you think about it, that between the 13th and 14th Amendment, that was the only time we was really ever free in this country. And once they made us citizens, we was bound to it. But I really think that if we weren't made citizens, white people would have rioted, and they would have took over the government, because there was no way they were going to have us walking around not bound to the same laws they was under.
Right.
Now, I have been to real courts. Of course, according to the United States Constitution, the only two types of courts are superior court and inferior court.
Right.
And they also have if you're in New York City, all the courts are downtown, like by Canal Street, over there, Court Street, and it's a bunch of, I swear, it's probably 20 courts back to back, every type of court you could think of. But if you go all the way up on 26th Street in an office building, they got 3 judges, just like it says in the 3 judges, and they still wear the wigs. No lie. And I had to drop. That's where you go to get if you're trying to get something appealed, you got to go there. And if you're privy to have to get something signed, boys, you'll be like, what the heck type of 1700? And then I realized, man, that's a real court. It's not a lot of them. And from what I understand also is the original Supreme Court is still there. It's in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania. Same court that had Bill Cosby on trial. That's the real Supreme Court, because that was the official, that was the real government. This DC thing is, that's some made up stuff.
Absolutely.
And a little bit to what Jen was saying. See, what they do is they don't get us into real contracts, because they don't never sign nothing. We're always the only ones that sign. But for what I understand is once we sign, they're paid. They're just asking us for more money to get paid twice.
Absolutely.
If I go to Sears or whatever and get some credit, well, and they give it to me, well, the bank approved me. They gave them the money. Now they're asking me to pay them X amount every month, but y'all got paid when y'all signed.
Absolutely.
So if you take it to court, they can never show up. Because Sears don't exist. It's a corporation.
Absolutely.
They can only send a representative, but you don't got no contract with that representative. So it's always a way out of that. And I'll mute my line. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Brother Thomas. Brother Real, I know you've been laying low.
I've been trying to speak, brother. I was on my other line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we uncovered a lot of information in a short amount of time.
Yes, sir, Brother Real. I want you to go ahead and bring what you got to bring. We do have a caller on the line from area 470. We're coming to you right after Brother Real.
Oh, no, go ahead, brother. Go ahead. Because, we'd have to backtrack to, way back to what Brother Jerry was saying. And, we can get to that. We can unpack that later on.
Okay.
Come back around to
okay. Caller out at area code 470. How are you doing this evening? State your name and your comment, please.
Peace to everyone. Peace to everyone. Blessings. Mario. Peace to Mario. Peace to you, Tommy.
Yes, sir.
This is Brother Ed. Just wanted
Brother
to
Ed,
send a
welcome.
Thank you. Just wanted to send a shout out to all of you brothers, man, and just say that this information is much needed, and we have to keep pushing forward with this. And I want to challenge all of us to not just let this be something that we talk about, but actually set some action plans to, move forward with this. And I know that's ultimately the goal, but I want to encourage you guys, because I know, there are a few callers. I've been a voyeur for, a few weeks now. And, I want to encourage you guys to keep pushing forward, keep doing it, because as you know, we have leaders, but most people are followers, and that is that's the truth of it. And in order to be a leader, you do have to go against the grain, and you have to fight against, or fight for what is right, And so, I appreciate you brothers, stepping in and doing this. And I hope we get, we're able to get more of the queens, more of the sisters in here as well, to back us and, cause we know where that power is. But last thing I wanted to say, just real quick, when you guys talk about I heard you guys talking about, these contracts and the jurisdictions and things like that. And, the thing that always stands out to me, anytime you look at any of these contracts or you're getting ready to sign something, even if it's electronically, there usually when you click that button to send your signature, it doesn't say send. It doesn't say accept. It says submit. And I just want to leave that out there. I leave that out there because they put things in plain view for us, but sometimes because how they play with the language, how there are two different languages, speaking from a legal standpoint, sometimes the things are very little too obvious to us to that point. So I just want to say that keep doing what you guys are doing, but there are signs to show that we are giving them jurisdictions over our lives. And if we just look at simple words and look up the definition of, what does submit mean? Every time we log in online and we log into our bank account or we apply for something, that button says submit. You are giving them the authority over you at that point. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say. And I'll mute my line. Thanks for listening, and thanks for providing all that information.
Yes, sir, Brother Ed, and definitely appreciative of you calling in and giving your opinion and your comment, and we definitely want to hear more from you, Brother Ed. There's much love and much respect. Go ahead, Brother Rio.
One thing I want to put out to the family is, you can call it a disclaimer. I guess you can kind of view it as you want. You got to be responsible, people. It is incumbent upon you to get down and study this information, because if you go into a venue or you start to try to apply this without understanding or having a firm understanding of what it is you're doing, they're going to look at you as a threat because they see that you're starting to awake to the game. And at that point, they're going to treat you like a combatant, and they're going to try to make an example of you, so for other people not to try and follow you. So it's important for us to get together to understand what it is we're actually saying. Like what Brother Tommy was reading, you need to understand each and everything that he was going through and what he was saying, because you will be challenged on it, because you are hitting them below the belt, and it's going to hurt them if you actually know how to follow through with it and you actually know what you're talking about. Ain't nothing they can really do at that point, but they going to make sure that you on point before they let you slide through, because they're not going to let the masses know that the jig is up. So at some point, they eventually going to be like, okay, well, we're going to have to deal with him another way. You know what? We're going to stop you right here. You're going to be the last person we see in court today. We're going to let all these sheeple through so they don't know that how to fight back. And we'll deal with you on the back end or what have you. But just be on point, family. Get with, we can get together offline and discuss things down to the bare bones of it. But, we just need to be in the correct term of understanding the information in which we are trying to present.
Absolutely.
And I see Brother Chris has a hand up. Something you want to go and say, Brother Tommy? Go ahead, brother.
No, hold on, Brother Chris. I'm going to say one quick thing, and I know what Chris is about to bring, but I want to say one thing. We do have an out. They're bringing student loans, tax debts upon you. We do have an out to these things. And it says right here, the liability of all parties to a contract is discharged if any party has no right of action or recourse. If remedy is not allowed in a contract, such as the presumed contracts mentioned above, there is no actual contract. Now, pursuant to the Uniform Commercial Code, a contract can be discharged in situations where a natural person does not knowingly, intentionally, and voluntarily enter into said contract. Go ahead, my brother Chris. Good evening.
Hey. Oh, did you want to go? I need to mute.
No, that's on you, brother
ahead.
Chris.
Go ahead, brother Chris. That's my bad. My bad. I apologize. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, brother Chris. Good evening, brother.
All right. Good evening. How y'all both doing tonight?
Doing good, brother Chris.
Doing good, brother. Doing good.
All right. I was just gonna say that a lot of folks need to understand that, which I'm sure they do, but we're actually forced into contracts unknowingly. And even when you go buy a piece of gum, that's a contract. Swipe your credit card, give them fake change for whatever. So when you understand how this stuff works, sometimes, you have to operate as a corporation to go up against these corporations. And when I say that, I mean, like, for instance, if you have to run a business, there's ways to get tax write-offs that the big shots do that a person could do so that you could probably obtain some of these real assets. And even with like a person that has legal shield, sister had gotten the issue, got a speeding ticket, turned it in a legal shield, the ticket got dismissed. So these courts, these fake magistrate courts, they know exactly what's going on. They're in there. They're not even real courts. They're magistrates. So they are just commercial business, which is what this country is constructed of. But one thing that Brother Rio had brought out, which he was stressing, which is he stressed to the people, which made a lot of sense, was that you really need to know what you're doing, because you could really go to jail behind this stuff, and you might can't get out if So I believe it is a powerful thing to understand what's going on in this world, and what I think when you talk about this, it opens people's minds to really understand what's going on. But you also got to understand how you have to operate. And I say that real quickly as, don't think you can't go out here without a license or insurance, or when you get in front of these officers that you can say something and you will not be apprehended, because all your rebuttal is going to have to go in front of a court of law. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say.
Okay, brother Chris, I appreciate that comment, but let me say one thing to what you said.
Can I add in with that, brother Tommy, before you get started?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, brother Jenna.
I wanted to add in to I can't recall what I was dealing with one of my children, and y'all know I have several. So I was dealing with one of my youngest daughter, when he was speaking, and I tried to sneak in before Brother Chris came in, but I had to back up because I know I had already been on, and other callers want to get in. But I personally have been in that situation, and remember, racism, white supremacy rules this country.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I go into a court system, I take my my Black Law dictionary, and Brother Chris had sent me the first and second volume of the Black Law Dictionary. And just so that you know, Brother Chris, I've been trying to get that out there, but it's a little bit difficult how you sent it to me for me to put it on BTR Community. That's why it's not up on there. But me and you will talk about that another time. But I have been trying to get that out there. But these things are set a particular way to where a lot of us, they don't teach it in school. We don't learn about this in college. We don't learn about this in secondary college. This is all self-made knowledge that we have to continue on our own. And just to get to my particular situation, I had self-learned this particular information. I tore my knee up. I tore my knee up on a wreck. And what happened is that the place, it was kind of sort of like a payday loan. I had got a loan, and then they decided that I didn't pay enough, even though it was what they set for me to pay every month. They decided that I didn't pay enough a particular month, even though I had been paying the same payment. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't the minimum payment,
Mm-hmm.
but it was not the maximum payment. I had been paying it for like, let's say about 15 months.
Uh-huh.
And then they reneged me on it. Well, when we went to court, they was like, either you going to go to court or you going to pay up 3 months in advance for us to continue to do this. And I was like, well, I ain't paying that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it at this particular moment.
Mm-hmm.
So when I said that I ain't have it, they cut me off. I couldn't pay it. It wasn't no way that I could go down there and pay it. I couldn't pay it on my card or what have you. And when I told them that, they cut it off. So when we went to court, I was sitting in front of the magistrate, and what's crazy is I'm not a tall person, but the lawyer was shorter than me. He was getting loud, and I was like, dude, I'll bust you in your shit.
Right.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. My apology, I'm sorry.
Nah, go ahead.
I was like, dude, you gonna quit talking to me like that. You know what I'm saying? And then I was like, you know what? We in the courthouse. I'm gonna go talk to the magistrate. So I went straight to the magistrate, and I was like, listen, I know you got some cases you need to hear, but this dude talking crazy. The person that I signed the contract with, they're not here. The person who he's saying that I owe, they're not here, and I don't adhere to none of the rules what he's saying. It was like, when you show up next week, sir, and have all of your paperwork, and we gonna hear it. So I went there, and he showed up with somebody who was not the person who I signed the contract with. And I was like, listen, the person that I signed the contract with, they told me this, that, and the other. When I paid it, they declined it, and then they told me that I bought the contract. And I was like, no, that's not how this works. And I pulled out my Black Law Dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
I pulled up what a contract was, and then they started practicing on me. And when I say practicing, they started practicing racism, white supremacy, because everything that I was saying was with the law, but they was not going to allow me to not pay no more based off of the fact that I was a melanated person, and the people who I was in contracts with beforehand was not melanated, and he was not melanated. So we always have to keep that into context, because the lawyer wanted me to pay, 27% interest, regardless of if I won or lost the case, which I won a case, and he still wanted me to do that. And the judge the magistrate was like, well, we're going to have him to pay what he owes, and that's it. And the lawyer was upset with the magistrate because they didn't side with him, regardless of what the ruling was. They was very upset. They was very upset.
Yeah.
So when we got it all said and done, I didn't have to pay none of the interest on it, because I had proved my case. The person that they had brought to represent the other half of the contract was not the person that I signed the contract with. And they was not willing to bring the person that I did sign the contract with. They was not willing to bring them there. So you're going to be practiced on, but you have to be, like Brother Rio stated, you're going to have to be 100% accurate in everything that you bring to the table. Because remember, we have been being practiced on for centuries, before the United States was even brought forth.
Mm-hmm.
They have been doing these things with these contracts before the United States was even brought forth. So this stuff has continuously been done by ways of treaties and what have you. So you have to have all of your paperwork, because if you don't, they're going to misuse you in any manner.
Yes,
any manner.
Yes, they
So
are.
With that being said, I'm going to put myself on mute. Thank y'all for taking my call. If something interesting comes back up again, I surely will dive back in. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Brother Jen. And what you're saying, and what Brother Rio has said multiple times, it is very important that you are on point and understand. And once I'm gonna go to Brother Ed here in a second, but we're gonna make some suggestions at the end, to where you can contact us, because I believe the first step that brothers need to consider in terms of sliding over from U.S. citizenship over to your state national citizenship is via the passport, but we'll discuss that later and give you a way to contact us so that we can talk about that offline. Brother Ed, what you got to say, my brother?
Yes, sir. Just to beat a dead horse, I think I'll be the third person to reiterate this, but yes, you have to be on point with your stuff before you start trying to use this. I remember, and I'm sure most of you brothers probably remember, a lot of court hearings where brothers would stand there and say, well, you have no jurisdiction because I'm a Moor.
Right.
And what you would see, what they would show are the ones who tried to stand on this square but don't have everything straight.
Mm-hmm.
What they don't show you is that the ones who truly do not allow them to have jurisdiction don't even make those deals in the courtroom. Okay.
Absolutely.
Most of the most important deals are made outside of everybody's eyes. They are made behind closed doors. I've had situations where I've been in court representing myself for a speeding ticket. So something simple. And I knew my rights, but at the same time, the judge still wanted to test me, still wanted me to state my case, although there was no accuser there. Okay. So when I had the information, because I still had my backup, when I had the information as to why I still should not receive the ticket,
mm-hmm.
the court kind of got rowdy, like the people, the common people. We were all like, oh, yeah,
mm-hmm.
because they saw which way it was going.
Right.
He had to stop it, pulled me to the courtroom. He dismissed it, but he didn't dismiss it in front of everyone.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So there's another situation where there was a court proceeding coming up, and I wanted to settle. I didn't want to deal with the court situation. So I basically got an appointment with the clerk before the court date, went down there, had a closed meeting with the judge, and left a money order. I think it was a $200 money order or something like that. But it was I could have, spent the time going to court and possibly having to, do probation or whatever it might be. But the simple fact that if you have your shit together and you really have your facts together, your deals won't be seen in the public eye.
Absolutely.
And this is why this information is so valuable and somewhat hard to come by, because we know a lot of this information is for them worth killing for, so you can't really be with a bullhorn screaming to everybody, hey, this is how you do it. This is the plan A to B, It does have to be figured out. And I think that most of those who have figured it out, you have to kind of get to a certain point in your own quest, and, that help will come, as well. So I'm going to mute myself, and thanks for listening.
Yes, sir. Brother Ed, that was an excellent point. You cannot go in these courts hollering and screaming about your constitutional rights. That is not what the court is there for. We have to understand that they are there dealing with commercial contracts. They are not dealing with anything other than that. And Brother Ed makes an excellent point, and I definitely appreciate you bringing that forth. What you feel, Brother Rio?
I believe, he's on point. A lot of times we do go in and we're arguing the wrong things because we don't have the proper information in order to protect ourselves. So it does require, study and research. But it can be done.
But it's but Brother Rio, it's the wrong venue. You ain't got no business going there arguing constitutional rights, Bill of Rights. You having these protections within this commercial court, within this maritime law. If you know better, you ain't got no business in there arguing that.
Well, I will say this, Brother Tommy. Sometimes when you're being challenged, they are going to pull you into the courtroom, and you have to know how to stand on your square in order to get it into the right venue. Right. So, like he was saying, if you're saying to the person who's not, first of all, you got to know he's not a judge. He's a magistrate.
Right.
I mean, that's first and foremost.
Yes, sir.
Because he's going to posture himself to be like a judge. He might even think he's a judge, but you got to be able to stand on your square and be strong in the information. I know this dude is not a judge. So even if he does rule against me, the verdict is null and void because, dude, you ain't a judge.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, but you got to know the steps to get it bumped up to the proper courts. To the proper courts. So he may rule one way, but you got to be strong in information to know, that was just a battle. The war ain't over, and then you put in the proper paperwork to appeal it, and then you go to the next one and that one ain't the right venue, and you keep going until you get to the one where, hey, I understand exactly what you're saying. Through all these appeals and these paperwork, I see, you know enough to know that you're talking about because you hear, they ain't got no standing, case dismissed, go on about your business.
I understand. Go ahead, bro.
And then if you got enough information and fortitude, now you can work on your recourse and your redress. Hey, these people violated my rights. And in the codes, their own statutes and codes, they have certain amounts that are tied to that. Now you can go after that money.
Brother Rio.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Brother Rio, you also have to recognize that they looking at you as a minor, which meaning in layman's terms that you are a child.
Absolutely.
And that you don't understand the law. You have to recognize that too. Because if you thinking that because you are an adult that you do understand, that plays against you also.
You're absolutely right, sir.
Absolutely.
And that's why, we're titling the show, to break these contracts and also to break these presumptions, which is one reason we have to get out of at least in that venue or legally, we got to get out of calling or referring to ourselves as being black or African American, because it has no standing. You are a minor. You don't have any rights that any white person is bound to respect.
Absolutely.
You get none of that, and you're going to get railroaded.
Especially when you classify especially when you classify yourself as so-called black. They labeled you that for a reason.
Yes, sir.
Let me say it again. They labeled you black for a reason. And when you choose to self-identify as that, you are basically losing your power and your authority, and you are giving it over to your oppressor. You cannot self-identify as something that they label you. And let me say something, brother.
It has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with race. Do with the color of your skin or race. It has to do with your status.
Absolutely.
And just like Brother Tommy was saying earlier, they make terms that they define. Mm-hmm. So when you come up in their venue, those are the definitions that they're going by, like a benefit. You don't want to accept a benefit because that complies consent.
Yes, sir.
Which means you are now under a contract. But if you receive a benefit, now you can still go back to, without prejudice, and you can reserve your rights. So you got to understand the terms in which they're using and how they're going to apply it to you when you go into that venue.
Absolutely. And Brother Real, let me kick in something. Me and Brother Roz had a real good conversation about this. When our ancestors referenced the color black, they did not use the word BLACK. The indigenous term that referenced the so-called color of black was KHAM, KHAM. They never used the word BLACK. That was a word that was created in the 1500s to apply to you on this new code system that they were creating. So do not confuse the word black, BLCK, with CAM when we when we referenced ourselves as being of this color or understanding the true rulership of this color. Black and CAM are two different things, and do not confuse the two.
As well as more as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely, my brother. Well, Brother Rio, we don't go ahead, Brother Roz. I know you've been listening all this evening, man. It's time for you to go ahead and bring it, man.
Peace. I was just listening. Peace and love to everyone. Thomas, Brother Ed, Jenna, you, Tommy and Rio. Peace to all of you. Yeah, that was that was funny. I thought about that when you said that, because that term, CAM, matter of fact, if you ever get black soap, especially the brand, which is my favorite, it's called Doodle Oshun.
Yes.
And look on the ingredients. You're going to see something called CAM wood. And CAM wood is the same term they use on the Nile Valley that they still use to this day in West Africa when you get black soap. What gives the black soap its color is that CAM wood. It's black wood. And the way that we looked at black had to do with the way that we saw ourselves, because ultimately, when you look at the deity Amun or Amun-Ra and Asar, they were both called the Lord of the Perfect Black. So we saw black as divinity. So when we looked at each other, we just looked at other gods. You know what I'm saying? So the context is very correct, and like you said, it's very important. And then, like you said, it's the word. We never called ourselves black, the English term for black. We called ourselves CAM.
Right.
And even when I went to initiation, for those people that make their pilgrimage back to either like the Burkina Faso, West Africa area, and in some cases go back to the Nile Valley to get there, go finish their initiation or whatever, they're called those people CAM. CAM people, or black people, the people who relate back to that ancestral legacy and are going back home to reclaim that. So those are what we call CAM people. So that's just to give you a holistic understanding of that term, as far as from an initiatic standpoint. And I was just wanted to say there's a phenomenal website by a guy named Howard Freeman, and it's called the UCC Connection. It's freedom-school.com.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the guy who first brought this information out to the public, like in 91.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those books that people get, those UCC books, are all based on the knowledge that he put out there. And ultimately, a lot of what you guys are talking about, you can find it there. They also discuss extremely explicitly the importance of knowing what you're doing. I knew somebody, my brother-in-law, was attempting to dabble with this stuff. And on, I think, 2 occasions, he told me he had gotten into some situations where he was trying to use this stuff and didn't know what he was doing. And he told me, I said, you out the bag. I said, you got to stop where you at. I said, you don't know what you're doing. You went in there. You really didn't have the complete understanding of what you were doing. And now you're flagged. And I said, what? I said, I said, did you see Wesley Snipes? He said, yeah. I said, you know why he went to jail? Because he didn't know what the heck he was doing.
Absolutely.
He was talking that talk, but really didn't understand it and didn't have the ability to really follow through. And in so doing, he got caught up and they put him in jail. And I said, brothers like you, I said, now you're tainted goods. I said, you can't really mess with this no more at all. Because this is a thing where you got to do it one time and one time only and execute it perfectly with no mistakes, no fumbling with your words. Your words are extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to convey these thoughts and ideas in a way that is just unprecedented for most black people, because we're always put under the gun and we're always stressed out and we're always fishing for things in our brains because we're always under pressure.
Absolutely.
So you really have to know what you're doing. And I just wanted to say that, but that Freedom School, freedom-school.com, Howard Freeman is his name. Check him out, and you can find some YouTube videos. He's dead now, but you can find some YouTube videos of him also discussing this stuff and just making it plain, just like you brothers did tonight. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing y'all post what you said, what y'all read, because that was some powerful, powerful, powerful stuff, brother. So let me shut it down right there. Thanks so much, and I'll mute my line.
Yes, sir, Brother Roz. Much love, much respect, my brother, and you already know that. So, but I say it anyway because sometimes you have to step up and let your family know how you feel about them, and the relationship you have. Sometimes it has to be expressed. Much love. Much respect. Brother Rio, we're getting ready to ride on out of here. We gave a lot of positive information. There's some other aspects of the UCC code that we wanted to get to in terms of what that one could use in terms of reserving their rights, especially when it comes to taxes and things of that nature, because I just wanted people to understand that when you're dealing with the word citizen, when you're dealing with the word resident, when you're dealing with the word taxpayer, when you're dealing with the word person, when you're dealing with the word driver, when you're dealing with the word individual, all of these words have the same meaning. So we got to be up. So go ahead, Brother Rio.
Hey, bring that tomorrow. Bring that tomorrow on Real Life. We need to get all of this information out.
Yes, sir.
Bring that to life tomorrow for sure.
Go ahead and give the people the phone number, Brother Jenna.
It's Real Life, and that's the name of the radio show, and it's me, Jenna, and Brother Roz. And the phone number is 423-398-1885.
What time?
Again,
What time?
423-398-1885, and it'll be at 9:00 Eastern Time.
On Tuesday.
Yes, on Tuesday, tomorrow.
9:00 Eastern Time?
Yes, sir.
Every Tuesday?
Okay. Apparently so. Brother got his schedule changed, so
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. We appreciate that, Brother Jerry. Brother Rio. Yes, sir. Brother Rio, we about to wrap it up for this evening. If you have any final comments, go ahead and make them. I will make mine, and then we will close out the show, my brother.
I think we had a very good show. We definitely going to have to delve a little deeper into it to get more coverage. And I'm pretty sure more people are going to have more questions as they listen to the show and have a chance to roll it around in their minds. So, it's a good beginning. But we'll be back next Monday, 8 to 10. Melanated Roots, Brother Tommy and Brother Rio. As always, take care of each other. And please do your best to take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of nobody else. So with that, we'll see y'all next week. And Brother Tommy, what you got?
Absolutely. Melanated Roots from 8 to 10 every Monday. We coming at you. You can reach us at melanatedroots, the number 9 at gmail.com. Me and Brother Rio would like to discuss with you one way to move over from U.S. citizenship status to a state national status. And we can discuss that offline. It has to do specifically with a passport that could be issued to you. Give us a ring or hit us up on email, and we can definitely discuss that, and so that people can start making that first step to remove themselves from the classification of U.S. citizen underneath the federal corporate government. Again, we are not attorneys. We are not lawyers. We are not giving legal advice. We are building with our brothers and sisters and our family, and we definitely want to continue to do that moving forward. Much love, much peace, and we definitely appreciate you guys for tuning in and bringing that energy so that we can continue to inform our family. We'll see you next time, Monday from 8 to 10. Peace.
Peace.
You can hide. I betcha. Can't hide love, well I betcha. I can't hide, yeah. You can't pretend there's nothing there. Girl, I look in your eyes, see you care. So why not stop trying to run and hide? You won't find out if you never try. You want my love? I bet you. You want my love? Well, I betcha.
For listening, family, and I appreciate you taking time to absorb the information. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. To my melanated family, we are a global family. One love.